The role of associations like Valore D or Parks is very important. They help organizations and people to understand the negative impact of stereotypes and to design practical solutions to promote equality. In this module, we are focusing on unconscious biases, rudeness at work and universities, and the role of allies in improving the situations. As late as 1970, only 5% of musicians performing in the top 5 orchestras in the United States were women. Today, women compose more than 35% of the most acclaimed orchestras, and they play great music. This did not happen by chance. It required the introduction of blind auditions. During the auditions, the selection team can't see if the applicant is a man or a woman. A simple curtain doubled the talent pool. Gender stereotypes can affect men too. Only about 10 to 20% of elementary school teachers in many countries are male. Stereotypes describing how we believe the world to be often turn into prescription for what the world should be. To create equal opportunities for female musicians, male teachers, and for everyone else, it is important to design practical solutions and to admit the existence of unconscious biases. For example, what is celebrated as entrepreneurship, self-confidence, and vision in a man is often perceived as arrogance and self-promotion in a woman. If women conform to the feminine stereotype of nurture and care for others, they tend to be liked but not respected. Dozens of studies have now demonstrated that women face a trade-off between competence and likability. If women demonstrate they can do a man's job, they no longer fit the mental and cultural model of the ideal woman. Both women and men tend to be discriminated against in jobs that are associated with and dominated by the opposite sex. Men were discriminated against when seeking jobs as secretaries, and women discriminated against when seeking jobs as engineers. People who maintain that prejudice is no longer a real issue today show to what degree prejudices have become unconscious. Since they are subtle, outside consciousness, and elusive, they can therefore be denied. If asked, most of us would say that discrimination against women in the workplace is wrong and unacceptable. Unfortunately, research shows that treating women and men equally in hiring decisions and job evaluations is more of an ideal than a reality. So if we agree that sex discrimination is wrong, why is it still happening? One answer is that many of us harbor unconscious biases that can affect our judgment even though we may be unaware of them. Uncovering these unconscious or implicit biases can be the first step to eliminating them. According to sociologists, children begin to acquire prejudices and stereotypes as early as 3 years of age. For example, they pick up terms of racial prejudice without actually understanding their significance. Soon they begin to form bonds with their own reference group and develop negative attitudes towards other racial and ethnic groups. Most children acquire a full set of prejudices expressed through verbal insults, ethnic jokes, and acts of discrimination. At 9 years of age, a child can be homophobic, having interiorized a form of contempt for gays based on the frequent jokes of the adults around them against gay people. Once learned, stereotypes and prejudices are resistant to change. People embrace anecdotes that reinforce their prejudices while ignoring experience that contradicts them. Frequently, the very people subject to the prejudice end up interiorizing a negative assessment of themselves. So women end up acquiring their own prejudices about women, and gays hate other gays or themselves. If people are finally conscious of their hidden prejudices, they can monitor and attempt to improve attitudes before they manifest themselves in behavior. Rudeness at work and in universities is on the rise all over the world. Hate speech is on the rise in the social media. Many times people don't realize that some kinds of behavior are bullying. Bad manners at work, aside from being in itself deplorable, is an economic problem. Christine Porath and Christine Pearson show how rudeness at work is rampant and on the increase. In the US, 98% of people at work have experienced unsafe behavior. 47% of LGBT people felt they experienced discrimination or harassment across Europe. According to a 2017 survey by SVG in Italy, women, homosexuals and immigrants are the main target of bullying on the social media. The role of men and straight people is essential to change our culture. They can become allies of women and LGBT people to change the culture of society. Allies are people who recognize the unearned privilege they receive from society's patterns of injustice and take responsibility for changing these patterns. Allies include men who work to end sexism, white people who work to end racism, heterosexual people who work to end homophobia, able-bodied people who work to end discrimination against disabled people, and so on. Part of becoming an ally is also recognizing one's own experience of oppression. For example, a white woman can learn from her experience of sexism and apply it in becoming an ally to people of color, or a person who grew up in poverty can learn from that experience how to respect others' feelings of helplessness because of a disability. Men engaged as allies to women's advancement tend to have their own reasons for doing so. For example, they can fight for equality so that their daughters can grow up in a better world. The work to engage male and straight allies is a long game. Trust between women and men, or between straight and gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender people cannot be manufactured, only earned, and it's part of the solution to creating cultures that embrace diversity.